Welcome to the collection of the wildest and craziest Reddit stories of all time. From wild betrayals to shocking twists, these tales will leave you questioning who is really in the wrong. Let's dive in together. The first story for this collection is from short-selection-9393, AITA, for cutting my conservative father off because he called me a whore for having a boyfriend. I, 25F, grew up in a very religious Mormon family. I was never once in my life interested in the Mormon religion or any religion. This has created a big hole in my relationship with my family. I've tried to keep the peace with them for too long. I've moved to a different country after I turned 18 for college and ended up staying in the country permanently. It was honestly a huge relief to live so far away from my family, but they still call me once or twice a month to update me on their lives and what's been going on with their church. Sometimes I update them on my life if anything has changed. It's been a while since I last spoke to them. I have gotten a boyfriend since our last call, which was around 4 months ago, and moved in with him and his brother just a week ago. Today, my father called, and I brought up that I have a boyfriend. He asked if we lived together, which I replied, yes. He went on a religious tangent, saying that what I'm doing is sinful and against the Mormon religion. He said a few other bigoted things, but what made me decide to cut all contact was him saying that he wishes that his daughter didn't end up being a whore and compared me to being a used shoe and unlovable to any man. My boyfriend isn't the only man I've had sex with, but I'm definitely far from a whore. I ended the call right after he said that and sent him a message stating that I will not be in any contact with him unless he wants to have a mature adult conversation. My mother and siblings blew up my phone backing up my father, so I blocked them too. I am extremely hurt and offended by his comment. Religious or not, a father should never call his own daughter such hurtful things. I've gotten a few messages from other family members asking me to unblock my family and to just look at it from their perspective. I'm being treated like I'm the AH in the situation. OP is not an AH. Rather, her father's comments were cruel, misogynistic, and completely disrespectful. No one should tolerate being called a whore by their own parent. Setting boundaries and cutting off toxic family members is justified, regardless of religious beliefs or perspectives. As for scores, I would rate OP's father 3.5 out of 5, and OP gets a 0. Let's now move on to the next story from outside_walk_6944, AITA. For breaking up with my boyfriend of 3 years over gift giving? Oh god, I've talked to so many people about this, but the world needs to know that even the nicest, friendliest man you can date will still neglect you after multiple conversations about relationship issues. We met in high school. I was a junior, and he was a senior at separate schools. I met him where I worked, and instantly my heart melted for him. A clean, overly sweet, hilarious dork who brought me bread rolls and would always engage in conversation with me and my coworkers. We started dating, and the first red flag should have been him giving me his sweater, looking me right in the eyes, and telling me it used to be his most recent ex's. Wow. But I'm head over heels for him, so I let it go. Fast forward to the summer, and we are working together at a new job. I get him over $100 in birthday presents because he's turning an adult now, so he deserves a board game he's been looking forward to and a few snacks. He loves it. 2 months later is my birthday, the first birthdays we've spent together, and what do I get? Nothing. Of course, I make excuses for him because he doesn't have a car, and the closest Walmart is 40 mins away. Best part is that we could have Amazon and any other packages to deliver where we are staying for work. I still get nothing. More months go by, he's starting college in a nearby city, and I'm a senior at high school. I take off every single Saturday to spend the entire day with him. Mind you, his apartment is 45 mins away, and my parents have a 10 o'clock curfew for me. Every single Saturday I would take off work, spend my own gas money, and spend a day with him. He visited me twice that semester. Well, I chalk it up to he doesn't have a car, he doesn't have a job, he's a full-time student, bullshit. Every year my immediate family travels across the country to see my extended family for Christmas, so for a few weeks I didn't get to see him. When I got back, guess what kind of present was waiting for me? Nothing once again. Anyways, I continue this trend and graduate high school. During that summer, he went back to work and I had some personal issues so I could go with. You think he would take the time to come see me because he had his very own car again? But a month goes by and I have to drive 2 hours to see him on his birthday. I get him gifts like a fantastic girlfriend would do. By the end of the summer, he doesn't see me on my birthday, doesn't get me a gift, and I have to move into college a week before he gets back from work. Well, I move into college and meet some wonderful people, and I introduce them to my boyfriend a few months later. I had already taken a 2-hour bus ride to see him, and he made me late for the bus back home. It left without me. Finally, he drives 2 hours to come spend the weekend with me and my friends. Great. But only once per semester because it's too expensive, while I take the bus home every 2 weeks just so I can not only see my family, but cross out a whole day for him too. This Christmas is finally the one where he can come meet my extended family. My parents buy us plane tickets because there is no room in the car for both of us to travel with them. This man gets a free plane ticket there and back, free housing and food for a few weeks, and free event admission for when we saw movies and did historical hikes. Finally, Christmas Eve. My entire extended family is sitting around the living room and we start opening presents. But the end I didn't receive anything from him. But Christmas Day is reserved for immediate family presents only. So I think that's the perfect time to give him my gift. Christmas morning comes. I give him a ceramic mug I had handmade for him. He likes coffee and nature, so a mug with forest designs is perfect. He loves it, says thank you, and the best part, nothing. I get nothing. Here I am, surrounded my family all watching as I push back my emotions. I thought it would be different this time. I've talked to him over and over again about how it's pretty important to get your girlfriend things for special holidays. Well, the usual, I'm sorry I'll do better next time comes and I let it go. Oh, and the past 2 Valentine's days were the same. I visited him with a box of gifts. He says thank you and nothing more. Wow, we're already reaching 2.5 years together. Since he didn't get me anything for Christmas, he's getting nothing for Valentine's Day. Side note, he didn't care. First year of college is over, and he goes back to work out of state for the summer. I get a summer job back home, and pretty much am by myself the whole time. I visit him on his birthday for a few hours, mind you. I drive 2 hours there in the morning and 2 hours back, getting home at around 1 in the morning. I just get him a jar of his favorite candy I had special ordered from out of the country. It wasn't that expensive. I spend the rest of the summer working and my birthday comes and goes. Before I move into my first apartment, he says he has a gift for me. OMG, I'm so excited. Can y'all guess what it could be? I'm an 18-year-old girl at this point and I love the ocean, pop culture, and stuffed animals. Y'all? He reaches into his bag and hands me a Beyblade. A Beyblade? MF spinning top for my 18th birthday? I'm just so awkward at this point as I'm trying to be grateful, but this feels like a stab through the heart. Like he has never once known me in the few years we've been in a romantic relationship. Anyways, I move into a new apartment and start my second year of school. I'm loving it here. I'm getting really into the major I chose. And I start to realize that even though he has a car, 3 jobs now, and his own place, that it shouldn't be too hard for him to visit me now, right? Wrong. It's too expensive. So, for 3 weeks I seriously contemplated why I was with this guy. Of course I loved him. He's my best friend, we bring out the best in each other, and he's wonderful to be around. Finally, my roommate talked some sense into me that this will be the rest of my life, always trying to get him to put in more effort to appreciate me in the way I wanted to be appreciated. Several conversations I've had in the past didn't change anything, so why keep trying when there is someone out there who actually wants to spoil me? November comes around, and I absolutely am dreading seeing him and his family because I've lost a lot of respect for him, so I call him and break up within 45 minutes. He says he can fix it in a week. Yeah, no thanks, there's nothing you could possibly do to make up for this, man. So, this is a pretty common problem with a lot of guys, so please, for the love of God, pay attention to what your girlfriend appreciates, or she will leave you, and you won't see it coming. I was honestly the best partner my ex could ever have, and he made the decision to not pay attention to what I held close to my heart. Literally, my roommate knew me for a day, and then surprised me with thrifted silver shark earrings, the best possible gift I have ever received. I already know the answer that I'm not the asshole, but if anyone wants to share their opinions. OP is not an AH for breaking up with her boyfriend. She communicated her needs repeatedly, but her boyfriend consistently neglected her feelings and efforts. Relationships require reciprocity, and he failed to show appreciation. Breaking up was the right choice. As for scores, I would rate OP0 and OP's boyfriend 3 out of 5 on the scale. Let's now jump on to the next story from Beep Beep JLF. AITA for not being welcoming to my addict brother's new girlfriend. I, 29F, have an older brother, 34M, who I love very dearly. We have 2 other siblings, 32F and 22M. For some context, we grew up with a narcissistic dad and a mom who was a bit of a basket case because of it. Our childhood was rocky because of my parents' constant rift and my dad's narcissistic tendencies, but we were kind of upper middle class, and my brother grew up being provided everything he needed. I don't want to discredit his trauma involving my dad. He dealt with a lot, especially as the oldest child-son. When he was 15 or 16, he swallowed a bottle of Tylenol in front of my parents and went to the ER, and my brother and dad would get into physical fights as he became a teenager-young man up until he moved out at 18. My brother is very analytical and kind-hearted, though he was not always that way growing up. He was angsty, and I remember him being mean, which he grew out of immediately after turning 18 and moved out of the house and started working and being independent. Writing this makes me cry because I love my brother so much. He helped me get through a lot of painful times that I endured during my parents' subsequent divorce, after I was SA'd at 19, and for a couple years after that. He started to lose track after working as a PA in the reality TV industry for a couple years, working ridiculously long hours. He met a woman when he was 26 and had a large savings from all the non-stop work he did and quit his job so he could stay in hotels and take her out to dinners and shopping, and they got married without telling anyone in the family about it. I was devastated. My mom and sister were devastated. It was just so shocking and out of character. I was 21 and very angry and self-centered, and I chose to reject her and their marriage from the start. In my defense, he showed up to my mom's house when we were supposed to meet his new wife for the first time, and he was drunk and had a black eye. The entire time we were together, she kept shushing him and demeaning him for his sense of humor and way of communicating, and it was uncomfortable. My mom and sister were trying to be warm and welcoming and to accept it in some way, but I lost my cool, told her she would never be a part of my family, and stormed out. After that, they moved to another state to live with my dad, who enables my brother and support any decision he makes, as self-destructive as it may be, and my brother quickly started changing. My dad called us one day to let us know that he found a pipe in my brother's room and that he was doing CM. He and his wife were fighting a lot, physically too. My brother is 5'7", and she was 5'9", and he was the one with the battle wounds. Then one day, she left him, and they got divorced. For about 6 or 7 years, my brother was in and out of jail, mental institutions, living with our younger brother once he became an adult, screwing him over and getting kicked out, then bouncing back to my dad's. Then a couple years ago, my little brother got our older brother a job working with him as a pipeline inspector, so he stopped doing hard drugs, but continued getting belligerently drunk every day after work. He's come in and out of that haze, and every time he's out, it's nice to have my brother back, but he also is a little less there every time he does the hard drugs. He has almost died twice due to them being laced. It's just been an absolute hell of a battle for him, and subsequently for us, his family. He was working consistently for about a year, and moved in with our little brother. They got an apartment together, and were hanging out together, and it was nice to know that he was okay, and with someone that loved him. To add a last bit of context, my brother has always been very kind to everyone, almost to a fault. When a woman shows interest in him, he falls in love and drops everything. R.E., his last serious relationship. He is a hard worker, so he either invests all of his time and energy into work and making money, or into a woman who sucks the life out of him. He grew up playing video games all the time and has made a lot of friends through that he's known since he was a kid. Recently, while being on track and having saved over 15,000 USD, but still abusing alcohol, he connected with a woman he had met as a teenager through gaming. They jumped into a relationship together that quickly turned into him showing up with a black eye, being drunk all the time, getting into physical fights, which led to police interference and a no-contact order for the two of them. I found her on social media and noticed that she had posted a dozen photos of him sleeping, and she changed her last name to our last name. But according to him, They're not married. She's just crazy, his words. She also had a 5-year-old daughter that she lost custody of and has an OF account linked on her profile with an Amazon wishlist filled with lingerie and other oddities. He lost his job amidst all of this, and my younger brother kicked him out because of all the distress and lack of trust between them, a decision that the rest of the family supported. He and this woman have decided to ditch their court case, and he now has 3 warrants out for his arrest. She also lied about being pregnant to my mom, sister, and I. I found out I was pregnant a few weeks ago, and my brain has shifted in the sense of desperately wanting my brother back. I want my baby to know their amazing uncle that I know is in there, but is being clouded by a controlling, codependent, abusive woman. I have called him over 100 times over the last week, and he answered a couple times, sounding very intoxicated, but letting me know that he wants to get away from her, and that he has to placate her so she won't break lamps and TVs and throw my stuff around, his words. And he asked if he could come to stay with me and my husband and sister and brother-in-law. They just bought a large property that we're living on with them, helping them fix it up. We so badly want him to come and get sober, but this woman is toxic, and yes, to be fair, so is he, and we don't trust her. My sister told him that he is welcome to come when he's sobered, but that she is never welcome at her property, which has made her go even crazier. She took his phone and sent me wildly hateful texts, and then blocked my phone number from it, and I'm just at a complete loss. I know this is a lot to read, and honestly, I think I know what the consensus will be. I'm just struggling to come to terms with the fact that my brother has chosen this lifestyle and doesn't care. AITA for rejecting this woman and conditionally allowing him back into my life if he ditches her?
OP is not an AH for setting healthy boundaries with her brother. Her brother's addiction and toxic relationships harm both him and the family. She's right to reject the abusive girlfriend while offering support if he chooses sobriety. Tough love is necessary here. Let's now jump on to the next story from Major-P6233.
AITA. Did I cause an ex-friend to act out, and am I wrong for feeling abused by her? I, AFAB22M, met this girl, 23F, a couple of years ago. She was shy and my first friend in a new environment, and quickly she got really attached. I had to actively avoid her and make excuses because she became overbearing and wanted to do literally everything together. But I was worried to confront her about it because I didn't want to hurt her feelings. I would hear rumors that we were dating, which I quickly corrected, and people would comment that she followed me around like a puppy. At the time, I was dressing hyper-feminine alternative, but identified as non-binary. She's a lesbian, important for later. Overall, her aggressive affections for me were not subtle, but I was clear to her. I thought I was aromantic. I truly thought I was at the time. That helped a little, and she overall calmed down. I wasn't aggressive or mean about it, because she was really sensitive. Time passes, and even though she does get overbearing, it became more manageable, and I learned to avoid her. I was very socially awkward, and she was my only friend. As I made friends with people she wasn't friends with, she would find unjustified reasons to hate them and turn up her nose at me for being friends with them. She has this out-of-touch attitude where she genuinely doesn't like to think deeply and avoid deep convos, politics, activism, philosophy, psychology, things that are nuanced and complicated. She would say my friends she didn't like were too intense and annoying. These friends were an outlet for me to talk about these things without being shamed. It is important to mention she's a rich, conventionally attractive trans girl, and I'm not white and solidly middle-class/upper middle class. Another important thing is, for the most part, she has a supportive family and a therapist. A year passes and we have a stable friendship, and she volunteers to do things with me all the time, which at first I was receptive to, but we would do these activities, clubs, sports, hobbies, and she would be visibly disinterested or uncomfortable. I stopped opening invites or agreeing if she invited herself, to which she would resent me for, but she obviously didn't enjoy these things, and it would ruin the experience for me too. I would communicate that to her. Through these things, I made other friends and she would be nice and friendly to them, but with people she could date, queer women/non-binary people, it was obvious she would prioritize being friends with them, and it felt like she was trying to get at them romantically. A part of me was grateful that she was spending that energy on other people, not me. She also aggressively became friends with my hometown friends. The next year, I am actively sleeping around and casually dating people, exploring my... I went on a lot of dates with CIS men, and was very transparent that I don't want a relationship, I just want to be wined and dined because at the time I couldn't see myself with a CIS man. I share my dating adventures with my friends, and she in particular becomes more and more disapproving of my dating habits overall, but especially with CIS men. The way she expresses hate towards men makes no sense. I know she's never been traumatized by a man, at least that I know of, and she will say she hates men as a concept, but is actively okay with the men she has in her life. This attitude left a bad taste in me and other non-binary/transmasc mutual friends because she would hate men, but never clarified she hated CIS men and not extended any of that to mask trans people, trans men, and AFAB/non-binary people. If you were not a CIS man, she would treat you like a woman, if that makes sense. She was just very reductive about gender, but was in community with a lot of genderqueer people. So her black and white thinking about it was ridiculous, and she was not receptive to complicated conversations. And being genderqueer is inherently a complicated conversation. This behavior made a lot of people she saw as friends dysphoric and uncomfortable. All her negative behavior was constantly being excused by her and other white people in the friend group because she was autistic, so any criticism was waved off or she would go into victim mode. Another year, and I come into myself more and have separate friends from that group she's a part of. She still gets actively mad at me if I do things without inviting her, even if it's with people she doesn't like. I catch feelings for a CIS man, and it's a situationship from hell. I am also presenting less hyper-feminine but still very alternative. Important to mention that she was very basic when I met her, not a bad thing, and became more and more alt and mirrored my fashion interests. If I said something was cool, she would get it. A mutual friend later told me that this was strange behavior because she didn't actually like any of those things. Concerning my situationship, I talked to friends about it, and they are appropriately worried, but understand this is mine to work out and give advice or just listen. She, on the other hand, is degrading and condescending, and it becomes more and more obvious that she views me as boy crazy/slutty/whorish/morally wrong for having an emotional relationship with a man. She becomes borderline intolerable to be around, especially if the relationship gets brought up or if she brings it up. She actively talks about me to other people about it. This behavior gets excused by her autism again. During this period, she dates a close hometown friend of mine, and it goes bad quickly, and everyone is in the dark about what happened between them. New Year, I end things with situationship, but I am still dating, this time a mix of serious and casual stuff, and all genders men/women/non-binary. Important to mention, I keep serious relationships completely to myself, and do not share almost anything to friends, especially her. The hometown friend she dated, I'll call her Sarah, is alienated by the friends they had in common. The repeated narrative from her is Sarah was the problem. Sarah tells me what happened between them. When she was with Sarah, she would constantly go back and forth between talking about me that was unjustified. I prioritize hanging out with hometown friends instead of her during the school breaks. Just shit on my personality, I'm too intense, too loud, stuff like that, and critiquing my character, I'm sex-crazed and boy-crazy. Then a couple of months into the relationship, she admits to Sarah that she has always had feelings for me, but now that her and Sarah have been together, she likes Sarah. Sarah breaks up with her. After they break up, she begins being really nice to me again, especially one-on-one. Sarah calls this out as her latching onto me again. I think this is the period where she starts self-harming and makes it seem like a result of her and Sarah's breakup. I study abroad for a couple of months and go through something traumatic and start being reckless with my dating, and am with people I shouldn't be with, but I don't talk about it to anyone. I am a bit withdrawn. I actually try to put as much distance between me and her after what Sarah told me. She is meaner than ever to me, and continues the narrative that I'm a whore and boy crazy. I didn't know it then, but this is how she portrays me to other people, especially mutual friends. When I was abroad, she became close with my closest friend. I'll call them Alex. Alex has also told me she has made romantic advances to them which they rejected. She is blatantly rude to me in front of other people while kissing my friends, including people who are not friends with her, if they are a fab, especially Alex. One-on-one, she goes back and forth from being rude and really nice. She is actively spreading rumors about me that are blatantly not true that make her look like a victim.
We go to a music festival together that was originally supposed to be me and Alex, but she invited herself, and Alex was receptive. I know I should have said something to prevent her from going, and maybe this could have been all avoided. Me and other mutual friends are very confused as to why she is going, because she does not like the environment of music festivals. At the music festival, I get blackout drunk to the point where I cannot stand on my own, and people think that I was drugged. I wasn't drugged. I had an underlying health condition I wasn't aware of, but I was extremely physically weak, and at one point was speaking gibberish, extremely disoriented. I am left alone with her for 10 mins. I have no memory of most of the event, including that 10 mins. Other people that went, including Alex, noticed no change in her demeanor throughout the event. Morning after, she is acting giddy and extremely affectionate to the point it makes me uncomfortable. She is acting like she is my girlfriend. She tells me that in those 10 mins I asked to kiss her, and I kissed her neck, and was feeling up on her until she asked me to stop. I am actively freaking out. I would never do that with her because I know how she is, and I am not attracted to her in the slightest. I have moral OCD, especially about sexual assault, due to trauma, and start spiraling. She knows I have OCD. I cannot conceptualize her assaulting me because she has never been physically threatening and is always playing oblivious/victim/innocent. I truly don't think she is capable. When I spiral, I need people to confirm reality for me because the intrusive thoughts get too loud. I ask her if I assaulted her, and she said no. She goes back to being hostile but pushy and continues to seek out spending time with me, even though the entire time she seems annoyed at my existence. There is a performance art thing 2 cities over that me and 2 other friends want to go to, but one can't make it, and she volunteers to take the extra ticket. Mutual friends are again confused as to why she is going, because she does not like these things. She goes anyway, and is rude the entire time, and ruins the experience. A man hits on me during this, and she becomes even more hostile to me. Me and hometown friends, other friends, and her go on a trip. I make it clear that I need to be home on a certain date. This is because I had another trip / I wanting to give myself a day to recharge / my neighbor had asked me to fix their car. I also had a serious date, but I keep this to myself, especially because it's a CIS man. She presses me about why I needed to be home. I hesitate, and she says, "Oh, it's because you have a date, huh?" I stop engaging with the conversation. I give her no details unless she presses me. I go on the date, and it's the best one I had in a while, and I really like him. Actively during the date, I start receiving calls from people mad at me for cutting the trip short for a man Someone else had to be home too. It wasn't just me asking to be back on that date. I start spiraling and end the date early. I sit her down and try to talk to her about her behavior, and also lies she talks about me that I know of. Not related to the blackout, more ridiculous, like I drove coked up or force her to do my chores. But she keeps shutting me down, saying she's in therapy. Every point I make, she interrupts. I just tell her I'm done, and we aren't friends. She tells people I'm being dramatic, and it's my fault we aren't talking, even though she's trying to reach out, even though she is not trying. After a couple of weeks, she begins to act visibly depressed. People are worried she's going to hurt herself. I start dating the CIS man seriously, and some friends know. She becomes increasingly intolerable. She starts a rumor that during the music festival, I made her uncomfortable when I was blacked out. A few friends confront me, and once they hear my side, they think she's having some kind of breakdown or is delusional. This worsened my mental state. She starts avoiding spaces I regular to the point where it's extremely noticeable. When I confront her about it, she tells me she doesn't feel comfortable being around her sexual assaulter. I have a full mental break. I am at risk for suicide. She has started telling people I assaulted her in our friend group. Everyone is confused. Everyone is concerned she is having some sort of delusional mental breakdown. Others are saying she is trying to destroy me out of spite. 2 other friends she treats not as badly, but still bad, gently confront her about her behavior, and she starts cutting people off and being hostile. She also stops dressing alternative. Everyone she cuts off compares stories and catch her in multiple lies. I think I'm posting this for some sense of closure, but I don't know. I'm safe and more stable now with a wonderful boyfriend, but I haven't fully processed and can't afford a therapist. Did I turn her into that? Is this my fault? Why did she do this to me? Did I actually hurt her and am diluting myself and she is a victim of me? Did I manipulate those around me so I can live with myself? OP is not the AH, but was too passive in setting boundaries. Her ex-friend displayed controlling, obsessive, and judgmental behavior, spreading harmful rumors and undermining OP. OP should have cut ties sooner, but she didn't cause the ex-friend's toxic actions. As for scores, I would rate OP 0 and OP's friend 3.5 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now move on to the next story from Need Advice, now 9:38.
AITA for basically telling my mom she's a horrible mother and then cutting her off? I, 16F, called my mother, 50F, confirming that I was still flying out on 12/23 to come and visit her for Christmas. This was already an issue before, because my brother, who took care of me after my mother ran off halfway across the country 2 years ago, without telling practically anyone 20 days before my birthday, works and would have had to beg his shift manager to let him off early to drop me to the airport. She instead tells me I'm set to leave this Saturday in less than 48 hours. I tell her that that's not going to work as I want. Already have plans Saturday too. Have literally nobody to take me as my dad's car, cannot drive long distances, and my brother works all day Saturdays. In response to this, I ask her if there are any other options, to which she says the ticket is non-refundable and there isn't anything she can do. I express that this quite literally cannot happen, as I cannot wash and pack 2 weeks' worth of clothes and arrange myself a ride on such short notice. She then blows up at me, screaming that if I don't want to come and see her, I should just say that. To which I tell her nobody said that, and I don't understand why she's getting angry when I've been nothing but civil. This caused her to get even angrier, since I almost never stand up to her. She yells for another minute or two, to which I eventually hang up the phone on her, which she regularly does to me whenever I say something she doesn't like. I don't know what happened, but I've literally never felt so done with a person before. This is a regular occurrence, as she constantly treats not just me, but my entire family like. I end up texting her a paragraph saying that I'm not 10 years old and I don't appreciate it when she yells at me, especially when it's over a problem that I didn't cause and I'm actively trying to fix. I then tell her because of this, I am reluctant to come and see her for the holidays and most likely won't come. Then I wish her a merry early Christmas. It felt like I was pouring out my feelings to her in the most respectful way possible. She then responds with okay after deleting 2 messages, which honestly gets me madder. I ask her if that's all she has to say, and then she goes on a rant about how I can't disrespect her like this, and I quote, "One day you'll wish to see me, but I will be nowhere to be found," and then complains about wasting $1,000. This truthfully sets me off completely, and I send her an extremely lengthy paragraph about how all she does is constantly disrespect her children, and that there's a reason why not just 1, not just 2, but all 3 of her kids have issues with her. I then tell her she knows nothing about me because she doesn't make an effort to know anything about me. She proceeds to act shocked that I would say this to her, saying that I can't speak to her like this. She says that her life is going well, and I tell her I'm glad she's enjoying life without any of her children. After this, she tells me she's done with me, and I tell her the same thing, because honestly, I checked out months ago. She then said she doesn't deserve any of this, calls me, and then screams at me for a full 2 minutes. When she quiets down, I ask her if it's my turn to talk, to which I do. I tell her that she left me after she finished raising her 2 adult children, and that I deserve a mother who cares. I literally have not heard this woman say the words, "I love you," in years. She tries talking over me to say that if I wanted to, I could have come with her, and that it's my fault our relationship is so strained, when I tell her that she was 49 going on 50 when she left, and that it was up to her to maintain contact with her daughter, who very obviously held resentment at her for leaving, and that I couldn't possibly be expected to be the one to save our relationship. She hangs up the phone on me. I love my mom so much, and she sounded very hurt on the phone, especially when she started talking about how her mom died, and that one day after she's dead, I'd start regretting the way I'm treating her. I feel like I could be the AH because I really should have just kept my mouth shut and figured out a way to get to the airport, as well as not telling her how I really feel about her, but I'm just so sick of the way she's treating me. AITA? Edit. I broke up text into paragraphs for easier reading. Maybe an hour after posting this, she called my father, who she never contacts unless she wants money or needs to vent, and started saying she was going to commit suicide because of this. I feel like I should feel at least a little bit of guilt, but I don't.
I'm honestly just disgusted with her. I cannot believe that after pouring out my feelings to her, stuff that I haven't said out loud ever, she immediately tried to victimize herself and went to the one person she knew would enable her frankly insane behavior. I'm officially done. OP is not the AH for setting boundaries. Her mother abandoned her, failed to maintain a relationship, and emotionally manipulated her. OP set boundaries after years of mistreatment. Her mother's reaction proves cutting contact was necessary for OP's well-being. Her feelings are completely justified. As for scores, I would rate OP 0, and OP's mom 3 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now move on to the next story from Grell-Re-0T. AITA for cutting off my BF who enabled my self-destructive behavior during my manic episode.
In summer 2022, I cut off my best friend. Didn't even give her a proper explanation, just blocked her. TBH, at the time, I didn't feel like I had to give an explanation, as it was obvious. My ex-best friend and I both have BPD. We clashed a lot as our BPD differed quite a bit. I couldn't stick up for myself, and she always had a problem with me or our other best mate. We were a trio. I also have bipolar, and during a manic episode in April 2022, to be fair, I was undiagnosed at the time. But she had told our other friends she thought there was something wrong with me due to the sheer amount I was drinking, but never said anything to me as it suited her that I was going out. She used me. I was clubbing too much, spending all my money, and I'm still paying the price today with debts. Her way of coping with her BPD was going out and getting drunk or coked up. When I inevitably crashed, she decided to turn against me as I wasn't going out anymore. I managed to get a bit better mentally, and in August-ish I went to hers. I was still heavily drinking to cope. One night, I got blackout drunk to the point I was sick all over myself, and they had to put me in the bath. I was so hungover the next day, obviously. Now she was the sort of person you couldn't say no to. She had anger issues. If you said no, she would pressure you and get pissy. And she was so unpredictable. She'd try to kill herself over the most random things. I have BPD too, as I said, so I do understand, and I tried to be as understanding as I could to her. A few times we used the wrong tone with her, by total accident, and she would spiral. On the day I was hungover, she said to me, "Why don't we go to this deserted place with a lake that we can chill at?" It was the hottest day of the year. Those of you that live in England understand, the hottest day of the year is awful for us. I did not want to go as I felt really hungover and didn't want to go. I tried to object, but she got stressed, so I agreed. It was me, her, and my boyfriend. We got an Uber to the place, but the Uber dropped us at the wrong point, so we had to walk half an hour. I was like, no way am I doing that, but again, she got aggy. So we just went on with it. Bear in mind we had one small bottle of water and a few cans of Coke. All of our faults, not just her. I should have thought about it and bought more water. We started walking, and after about 10 minutes, I felt faint. I kept having to sit down. Every time I did, she got more and more annoyed. I was scared of her, so I had to get up and carry on. I drank all the water in the first 20 minutes, as I felt so dehydrated, like I was going to pass out. We finally got to the place she wanted to go to, and I was a wreck. Slurring speech, my brain was throbbing, my skin felt like fire. I can't even fully describe the feeling because it was the worst thing I've ever gone through. When I was there, I had to lay down in the shade. I couldn't even lift my head up. My boyfriend, bless his soul, was amazing and kept running back and forth to the lake, pouring water on me, and got my t-shirt and wetted it and put it on my head. She just sat there with the hump. She looked like a toddler whose toys had been taken away. She called our other best friend, complaining about me saying I was overreacting and lying. My other best friend swears blind she stood up for me, but I highly doubt that as she was scared of her too. She then came over to me and started screaming at me, calling me a liar, saying I just couldn't be arsed to walk. And then she said, "I'm going to call an ambulance to prove there's nothing wrong." She called the ambulance out of spite, and then we waited 2 hours. Because the place we were was deserted, they couldn't find us, so my boyfriend had to basically walk me over to them. She stormed off with a face like a bulldog chewing a wasp, and we found the paramedics. They had to walk me over to them, but after 5 minutes of walking, I couldn't do it anymore and collapsed. They had to put a drip in me in a dusty, narrow walk path, and I was just crying. She had already stormed off, so didn't see this happen. They took my blood pressure and shit, and said that if I was out any longer, I could have died.
Luckily, a bloke with a buggy car thing helped us get back, and when we got back to her, the paramedics actually had a go at her and was really quite harsh with her, which I was grateful for. I was in hospital for a few hours, and then went to hers to get my stuff. She was extremely apologetic, and I forgave her. After a few days, I needed a break from her. She had justified the whole situation in her head. She probably still thinks I'm a bitch to this day. She was rude and slagging me off behind my back, whilst being sweetness and light whenever I spoke to her. So, I blocked her. I never spoke to her again. Our other best friend ended up dropping her a few months later too for the fact she treated her like shit. I know I'm better off without her, but I do feel sorry for her as I know she's not all there mentally, like me. So, it's quite a tough one. I know she's mentally ill, but is that really a reason to be able to get away with treating people like shit? And said people making excuses for you every time? Or am I being a bitch? Was I overreacting for cutting her off for this? The reason I post this now after 2 years is because I have been thinking about her a lot. She messaged our other best friend to apologize recently, but not me. It grated me a lot. OP is not the AH. Her ex-friend was abusive, dismissive of OP's health, and toxic in general. Mental illness isn't an excuse for mistreating others. Cutting her off was necessary for OP's well-being. No apology just confirms her lack of remorse. OP's ex-friend is an AH, and I would rate her 3.5 out of 5 on the AH scale. And OP gets a 0. Let's now jump on to the next story from Laura22 Lynch.
AITA for not wanting to be my mother's guardian?
I recently got a document in the mail titled An Alleged Incapacitated Person for My Mom, asking me, did I want to become her guardian? I have been giving it a lot of thought since then, and decided I didn't want to, but I do realize this could be seen as me being self-centered. There is a very real possibility she may wind up in a nursing home if I don't step up. The sad truth is, me and my mom are not friends. Sometimes we barely get along. There have been times she made me so mad I almost cut her off. This is due to us having very different personalities. She also can be self-centered at times and get tunnel vision on herself, not caring that her decisions and words can affect and hurt others. A good example of this is when she left my dad. She randomly one day started distancing herself from my dad without explanation. After my brother died during 2020, she left him. The problem is my dad was unemployed at the time. He asked her to give him time to find a job so he won't be homeless. But she didn't give him any time and left him fast. Me not wanting my dad to be homeless stepped up and told him he could live with me as long as he needed. He still lives with me to this day, and we are good friends. It wasn't until after my mom left, she said what the problem was. She calmed that we the both of us treated her wrong, and that I talked down to her. The problem is none of us remembers this. We both agree if she have said something sooner, we could have tried to work through the issues. But now with her being miles away and impossible to visit, this wasn't going to happen. I do believe she is making up us treating her wrong in her head, but I do realize you can accidentally hurt someone without realizing it. So, I have apologized to her and have remained in contact. My dad was very hurt, and so was I. But one day I got over it when I realized I didn't miss her. That us being separated benefit the relationship. It helped us get along better. Therefore, I decided I never wanted to live with her again. My dad, on the other hand, it's complicated. Another good example happened just a few months ago. She had an idea that affected me and my dad's life. Without asking how we felt about her idea first, she acted upon it. We didn't find out into afterwards and was upset. I call her over the phone and try to explain to her how I would have appreciated it being asked first, spelling out to her that I was very upset. But she didn't care, but just went on and on about how good of any idea it was. She got tunnel vision really bad that day. We have fixed the issue since then, and I have forgiven her. But now you can see why we don't always get along. I'm sorry if I painted my mother to be the villain in these examples. I believe she is a nice person deep down. She is an extrovert too, and has many friends. So, people clearly like her for some reason. So maybe I'm the problem, and not her. According to the document, the reasons why they think she is an alleged incapacitated person is because she is a lazy slob. Apparently, her apartment was a mess, which is nothing new. Growing up, I had a cleaner room than she did. In fact, I had to clean up after her. Apparently, they found her forgetful too, which is also nothing new for her. Can talk in loops. It can be annoying. So, I'm not surprised this is happening to her. When I first got the document, I freak out, for I still care about her despite everything. I was ready to be her guardian. So, she won't go to a nursing home. I believe stepping up would be the right thing to do, that I should be there for her like I was for my dad. But now that I have had time to calm down and think about it, I realized I didn't want to be her guardian. At all, we barely get along. I realized I didn't want to be stuck living with her, or having to clean up after her again, or take care of her and manage her money. Knowing how stubborn she can be, I know she will probably throw a fit and fight with me every step of the way. I'm caught between my personal feelings and doing what I believe is the right thing to do. So, it's like, do I really want to go through that and be stuck with her? Why should I have to pay for her choices? What about how I feel or my future? Is it so wrong to think about myself for a change? My dad has already decided not to be her guardian too, which I don't blame him for. We don't have any another family, so it all depends on me. If I don't step up, then who knows what will happen to her. I can't help but feel I'm being self-centered. Right now, I just standing back and seeing how things turn out. I just wanted to make it clear that I'm not refusing to be her guardian out of revenge or hatred. I hold nothing against and believe in forgiveness. So should I be her guardian or let her have the consequences of her actions? AITA? OP is not the AH. She has valid reasons, especially her strained relationship with her mom, to refuse her mother's guardianship. It's not selfish to set boundaries, especially when caregiving would negatively impact your life. Not OP, rather, OP's mom is an AH for her behavior, so I would rate her 3.5 out of 5 on the AH scale, and OP gets a 0. Let's now jump on to the next story from Lucy B44. AITA for nearly ruining my friendship? I, 15F, am in a group of really close friends. We all get along really well, and I've known some of these girls for nearly 10 years. Before I was in this friendship group, I was in a really toxic one, which they helped me leave. So, yeah, we're all really close. However, there's this girl in our group who we'll call Jane, not real name, who took a weird liking to me. At first it was nice because I had never really had a close friend before, but recently it turned kind of obsessive. I started noticing little things like her copying my outfit choices, or even her saying she was dyeing her hair, the color I was planning. I was in a long-term relationship at the time, with a guy we'll call Max, not real name. Max never really paid attention to Jane, and they both kept their distance, and he even went to calling her weird on one of our calls. Skip a few months, and me and Max go through serious problems in our relationship, which I tell my friends including Jane. During these problems, me, Jane, and this other girl all met up together for a day. It was during this meetup that Jane starts saying how Max has been messaging her about our problems and they've been getting quite close, which I found weird as he never really mentioned her or shown any interest in her with me. Later that day, I caught a glance of her phone, and sure enough she had been messaging my boyfriend. To make matters worse, she had a heart next to his name, and they had been sending kisses at the end of each message. Soon after this incident, me and Max break up, and I'm immediately greeted with a message from Jane asking if I would be mad if they started dating. I didn't want to be the buzzkill, so I said, "No, he's all yours." And I later found out that they started dating not even an hour later. I remember how Jane and Max would continuously talk about how they had liked each other for years, but never made a move because they didn't want to hurt me or a guy, we'll name Dan. This guy had been crushing on Jane for years. Me and Dan both didn't believe this, but kept quiet as we didn't want to start anything. A few months after this, both me and Dan have moved on from the incident, and have slowly been getting closer. Jane and Max broke up a few weeks after dating, claiming how they were both just rebounds after coming out of long-lasting relationships. Eventually, people started telling me and Dan that we would make a great couple and stuff like that. Dan and I have been friends for nearly 11 years, and have never thought of each other that way, but our friends kept nagging until we asked each other out from pressure. Things were going great for a few weeks, until lo and behold, Jane comes into the picture. She starts openly flirting with Dan in front of me, going so far as to even stroke his chest before a PE class, and got all defensive whenever I tried to bring it up. I could obviously tell that Dan was still into her, so I called it off, but wasn't too upset about it, as neither of us really saw each other as more than friends. Skip a few weeks, and Jane starts talking about how her and Dan are now dating. She still sometimes slips comments in saying things like, "Oh, he told me last night that he never really liked you. He only dated you to get over me, but then he would see me, and all those emotions would come back up again." As always, I brushed it off. Skip a few months and I start chatting to this guy who we'll call Aaron. Things are going really well as he goes to a different school and only 2 other people in my school know him. I tell my friends we're dating and they all tell me how happy they are for me. Then one day in maths, Jane and I are snapping people on our phones. She's snapping Dan and I'm snapping Aaron. She looks over my shoulder and says how we should so annoy Aaron and make him jealous. I agree and she asks for his Snapchat. Obviously, I'm hesitant at first because of everything she's done with my past boyfriends, but then I realize that she's never actually met Aaron and probably never will. Then she starts snapping him daily, claiming it's just for the streaks, yet telling me when he sends a snap of his bare shoulder. Naturally, I start to get nervous, but then think, she's never met the guy. It's fine. Then she got drunk. She was at a party and drank too much so that she couldn't even walk. My friend was telling me how they had to show her a picture of Aaron to get her up the stairs and how she kept calling him fit and just non-stop talking about him. A few weeks later, I begin drowning in stress and decide to put a pause in the relationships. Aaron told me he understood and that he would wait for me whether I liked it or not. After Jane found out about the breakup, she started talking non-stop about him. She even turned around and said how she had had a small crush on him before we even started dating. Bear in mind, Aaron doesn't go to our school, so she could never have met him before. I tell her this, and she turns around and says, "I saw pictures on the walls at a party." I just nodded. A few days later, Aaron tells me that she's flirting with him, and I finally snap. Fine. You want all the attention? Maybe you should learn what it feels like. Aaron and I get back together, but we decide not to tell people, to see how far Jane will go before talking to me. She starts trying to set me up with her ex, saying how he likes me and how well we would work. I ignore all of these and decide to retaliate back at her. Whenever she talked about Aaron, I decided to say how I thought they would be such a cute couple and how they would work so well. I even went so far as to say that I'd put in a good word if she liked. Jane ate this all up, smiling and nodding, as if nothing else mattered, and agreeing for me to say positive things. This keeps going for about a week until one night, all hell breaks loose. Her ex decides to call me whilst being shirtless, so I decide to ask Jane and Aaron and make it a double date. Jane just shows mugs of me to everyone, and me and Aaron are messaging about how long this should go on for. Eventually, we all had to go, and not even 10 minutes later, Jane's ex messages me saying, "I love you." I call her, and she says she pushed him to say it because he does, and I tell her I don't feel the same. She stops talking and sends me a screenshot followed by, "Is it true?" My heart stopped. Someone found out that me and Aaron were dating and told Jane. She hung up the call. I messaged asking if she was okay, but she started yelling, telling me I was a bad friend and how she wanted to end it all. She eventually stopped talking to me and told the friend group what happened. I then got a lot of hate and even someone telling me to kill myself. Maybe I could have gone through with it differently, but this was the only way she would listen. So AITA?
OP is not the AH, but was petty. Jane repeatedly sabotaged OP's relationships, showing obsessive and manipulative behavior. OP retaliated immaturely, but Jane's actions were worse. A healthier approach would have been cutting Jane off instead of engaging in revenge. No scores for now. Let's now jump onto the next story from Brilliant-Garlic-883. AITA for refusing to help my sister pay for her kids' medical bills because of what happened when I needed help. My sister, 28F, and I, 26F, aren't super close. And honestly, we've never really been. She's one of those people who's always had her life together. Good job, nice house, all that. Me? Not so much LOL. I've had my ups and downs, and a couple of years ago it got really bad. So 2 years ago I lost my job. Like completely out of the blue. "Hey, thanks for everything. We're shutting down. Good luck." I was obviously screwed. I had no savings because, life is expensive, and I was living paycheck to paycheck like everyone else I know. My rent was due, and I had literally no idea how I was going to pay it. I was freaking out like, can't sleep, crying all night, stomach in knots level, freaking out. So, I swallowed my pride, which was already in the toilet at this point, and called my sister. I asked her if she could lend me 1,000 USD to cover rent. Not give me, lend me. I promised I'd pay her back as soon as I got a new job.
I wasn't asking for a handout. I just needed help. She didn't even hesitate. She said no. Straight up. Like, flat, cold, no. And then she gave me this whole speech about how she doesn't believe in lending money to family because it always goes wrong and ruins relationships. She said it wasn't personal, just her policy, and then basically hung up on me while I was sobbing. I was devastated. Like, I get it, no one's obligated to help me, but I'm her sister. I wasn't asking for anything crazy, I just needed help to not end up homeless. Anyway, I figured it out. I sold some borrowed from a couple of friends, and barely scraped by. But that moment, it stuck with me. It changed the way I see her. Like, she made it very clear that I couldn't rely on her when things got tough. I never said anything to her about it after that because what's the point? But I never forgot. Now, fast forward to last week. Her husband got laid off a couple months ago, and I guess they're struggling, but I didn't know the details because we don't really talk. Then out of nowhere, she calls me. She never calls me, so I immediately knew something was up. She was crying like, full-on sobbing, and told me they need 1,500 USD for my niece's medical bills. It's something about a treatment she needs, and apparently, insurance will reimburse them, but they have to pay up front. She said they're completely out of options and begged me to help. And look, I love my niece. She's 3, she's adorable, and obviously, she's done nothing wrong. But I couldn't help but think about that phone call 2 years ago when I was desperate, and she couldn't have cared less. So, I told her, sorry, I can't help you. And yeah, I might have been a little petty because I threw her words back at her. I said, I don't believe in lending money to family because it always goes wrong. She lost her. She started screaming at me about how this is different because it's her child, not just stupid rent, her words, and how I'm a selfish bitch for holding a grudge over something that happened forever ago. She accused me of punishing an innocent kid just to get back at her, which, okay, maybe that's a little true, but also, where was this whole family helps family thing when I was begging her to not let me lose my apartment? And here's the thing, I can afford to help her. I've worked my ass off these past 2 years to get my shit together, and for the first time in forever, I actually have some savings. But why the hell should I? She made it clear that we're not that kind of family. She set the rules, not me. And now that the shoe's on the other foot, I'm supposed to just forget everything and bail her out? I can't. Of course, she immediately ran to my parents, and now they're all over me too. My mom keeps saying, it's not about her, it's about your niece, and that I'm being heartless. My dad told me I'm acting cold and vindictive. They're both making me feel like absolute garbage, and honestly, maybe they're right. It's not my niece's fault her parents are struggling, but it's not my fault either. And honestly, if I cave now, I know my sister is just going to think she can treat me however she wants, and I'll still come running when she needs me. So, yeah, I feel like shit. But also, I feel like she kind of had this coming. Am I being a total asshole here? Or is it fair to not help her after everything? I can't tell if I'm justified or just being petty. OP is not the AH. Rather, her sister is an AH for refusing to help OP when she was desperate. And she set the precedent to refuse helping each other in difficult time. While the niece is innocent, OP isn't obligated to bail out someone who denied her the same courtesy. As for scores, I would rate OP 0 and OP's sister 2.5 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's not jump onto the next story from long_cell_3734.
Neighbor's dog keeps breaking into our yard and eventually does what I was worried about. I need some advice about an interaction I've had recently with my neighbor. Background on us as neighbors, we've lived next to each other for about 3 years. She was here before we moved in. We've always been friendly with each other, mostly kept to ourselves, and never had an issue until now. We live in a gated community where we all rent, so there's a management office we can go to for issues. A few months ago, their dog, we'll call her Dallas, died suddenly while they were on vacation. Unsure the exact details, but she had to rush back, and Dallas ended up dying of liver failure. This all happened around the August timeframe. We were not the ones taking care of her, and we never had an issue with Dallas. After Dallas died, they got a new puppy pretty quickly afterwards. I'm talking a few days, a week at most. We'll call this new dog Luna. Luna is like every puppy, excitable, has a lot of energy, and likes to jump. Because Luna's skinny, he can squeeze between our fence slats and get into our yard. He's done this pretty frequently, and I've always either gotten him back over the fence or put a leash on him and knocked on their door to return him. I've asked my neighbor to please keep him in their yard, because our dog, we'll call Ghost, is getting older now, and I'm worried about their puppy jumping on his back and injuring him. We also have 4 kids, youngest being 4 years old, and I'm worried that Luna going to come over and try to play with them and knock them over. She said she'd try to keep Luna out and put up some barricades along a small section of our joint fence. Well, that didn't work. He kept getting into our yard. I'd take him back over and ask her to keep him out. I've started taking pictures every time Luna is in our yard, and I'd say I see him in our yard on average twice a week since they got him. Additionally, over Thanksgiving, her kid's father, we'll call Jeff, was in town while she went on vacation, guessing they're divorced or separated, and Luna got into our yard again. I rang the doorbell, Jeff apologized, and said he had no idea that was happening. Obviously she didn't tell him, and that he's going to try and think of something to keep him out of our yard. Well, that never happened. Well, 2 days ago it happened. Kids were outside playing while on winter break. Luna gets in and jumps into our youngest. I want to be clear, he's not being aggressive. Just very playful. But regardless, she's terrified, and Luna blocks her path from getting in the house. He wouldn't leave her alone, and she just froze while he's knocking her about. My wife immediately went and pushed Luna away and got our daughter inside, all the while the owner's son, she wasn't home at the time, is outside and eventually hopped the fence and got Luna back. Our daughter's okay, thankfully, no scratches or bruises, but she was definitely shaken and scared. Yesterday evening I went over there to talk to her about what happened. I first asked if her son had told her what happened yesterday. She said that he did not. So I explained what happened and that Luna jumped on our 4-year-old, that she's okay but was scared, but that they really need to keep Luna in their yard, that I had previously told them of my concerns with our kids and dog, and that I really didn't want to go to our management office with this. Well, this set her off, said I was threatening her, that Luna is kept in the garage for 10 hours a day and is barely outside, that she has to come home after work and clean up his and make dinner for her daughter. Then she said, "Oh, by the way, your daughter is bullying my daughter at school." I was taken back by this and asked how she was being bullied because I do take that very seriously. She didn't answer and just ranted on about how their dad only visits once a year and she's doing the best she can. I said I totally understand that, and I wasn't threatening her, and reiterated that I don't want to go to management. I just need her dog to stay in her yard. She said, "Fine, I'll keep him in the garage all day then," and that she doesn't have time for this, and slammed the door in my face.
Now I understand her feeling threatened by me bringing up management. However, I don't really know what to do. I really don't want to go to management, but I also have been dealing with this for months now, and nothing's been done about it. And what I was very worried about happening, my kids getting hurt, happened. Am I an ass for handling it the way I did? How do I resolve this? I don't want there to be any bad blood between us as neighbors, but I also want their dog to stop being my damn problem. I've thought about going back over in a day or two, maybe with a small gift as a peace offering, and asking about the bullying. If my daughter is bullying, I want to know so I can put a stop to it. I was bullied growing up, so I want to make sure my kids are not being the bully. And then trying to bring up the dog and see if there's a solution. However, I feel like that's only something that happens in movies. What do you guys think? TLDR. Neighbor's dog broke into our yard, knocked out 4-year-old around. When confronted, neighbor gets very upset and accused me of threatening her. OP is not the AH. He repeatedly addressed the issue calmly, documented incidents, and tried to resolve it without escalating. However, the neighbor ignored concerns, failed to control Luna, and deflected responsibility. OP's priority is his family's safety, which is reasonable. So, instead of OP's neighbor is an AH, and I would rate him 3 out of 5 on the AH scale. What do the Mac Reddit fans think? Is the OP an AH or not? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like the stories I brought you, just hit the like button. Share them as much as you can. And don't forget to subscribe to Mac Reddit for a daily dose. Bye bye. See you tomorrow with some more spicy fries.